So as we continue along, I think we're going to have some fun now. All of you probably are news junkies, are you? Who here loves to listen to the news? We all do. So someone told me I should make an announcement today. It might be good for us. Joe Biden decided to drop his campaign for president. Is that a good thing? Not a good thing? We don't know. But it doesn't matter. He's no longer going to be president. So news like that comes across our wires. We see it all the time. We blink. We say, I'm absorbing it. I'm not absorbing it. And it's gotten sort of very sensational and to get our attention. But in Israel, news has its own flavor with the established news agencies. And a couple years ago, a gentleman came and made Aliyah from France and decided that he would create a new form of news and information broadcast. And we're very super fortunate today to have him with us to tell us about how his stations and broadcasts are changing the language of communication about news, information, social, cultural, educational, and timely information coming to you in the way that we all like it. Earlier today, I suggested that you all download the I-24 app. If you haven't had a chance to do so, start figuring out how to download, because you're going to love having this on your phone. It's going to be one of the apps that you keep. We're very happy today that we'll have Frank Malul, the CEO and founder of I-24, come to talk to us and tell us about the app. And we also have the famous Michael Hilzick, a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist for the Los Angeles Times, to come and have a dialogue with Frank Malul. So with that, may I bring you both up to the stage and take it away to take us on a journey of broadcast information in the modern age. The session is called In the News.
All right. Well, thank you all for coming. Sharona promised me that Yossi Vardi would be on this panel, and if you know Yossi, you know that for a moderator, it's great to have Yossi on the panel, because the moderator can sit back and just listen and enjoy, and not have to work very hard. Though for a panelist with a company to talk about, maybe that's not quite the thing, since it's hard to get a word in edgewise. But I guess Yossi isn't here with us.
In an odd way? It's a good thing.
Not yet. In an odd way, it's a good thing. Anyway, Frank, thank you for joining me, and thank you all for coming. I guess the best way to start is the way the previous panel started, which is with the elevator pitch for I-24. Give us sort of a couple of minutes of the basics of the story, how it started, why it started, and where you hope to take it.
I want to say it happened by accident, because I'm not a journalist like you. I'm not a businessman like most of the people in this venue. I'm a former French diplomat, and I did my career in the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And I was also the advisor of the former French Prime Minister and the President Jacques Chirac. So when you start to work in the French diplomacy, even you are a Jew and you are very Zionist, it's not the fastest way to finish in Israel. And at the end of his mandate, I was asked by Jacques Chirac to come in his office. I was 33. And I thought he will appoint me as an ambassador, because when the President of the French Republic he's asking you to come in his office is to appoint you as an ambassador. But I said, maybe I'm very young to be an ambassador. And he started to speak, and he told me, I have a big job for you. So I said, okay, maybe I will go to a big capital. It will be Berlin, it will be New York, Washington. And because, you know, when you are a young ambassador, young diplomat, you are always afraid to go to Africa because it's always the first job, and we are not sending you in the best place of Africa. He told me, no, you will stay in Paris. Okay. I need you to launch a French international broadcast. And I said, okay, you are a specialist of public diplomacy, you are a specialist of soft power. I want you to build France 24, the French international broadcast, as the executive VP for development. I said, okay. By the way, I didn't have any choice to say no. And 2 weeks after, Nicolas Sarkozy won the election. And we started to build France 24. But 2 weeks after, Sarkozy wanted to do the opposite of Jacques Chirac. So he said, why we need France 24? Because it's the channel of Jacques Chirac. So I had a long meeting with Nicolas Sarkozy, and I tried to explain to him that during the Iraqi war, if the French had something like a CNN, maybe the opinion public in the world, especially in America, would understand that we were not supporting Saddam Hussein. He understood this language and he said, okay.
Well, I'm not sure you can tell the American public anything, but...
So right after, I stayed and I continued to build France 24, and 5 years after, arrived François Hollande, who wanted to do the opposite of Nicolas Sarkozy, for sure. And I started to smell that something will not going well in France. And by chance, I received a call from a businessman, Patrick Drahi. I just heard about him. I never met him. And he told me, Guy, it's about time to do something for your country. So I told him, are you kidding me? I'm working for the French diplomacy since 10 years. This is the reason you are rich and I'm not. And you are telling me to do something for my country? And he said, I'm not talking about Israel. I'm watching France 24. And I like this channel, but I'm so disappointed that every time I'm watching news when I'm traveling, what I'm seeing on the screen is not the reality of what I'm seeing when I'm walking in the streets of Tel Aviv. I want a tool like France 24 to explain to the world the reality of the Israeli society. It was in October 2012. He was very afraid that I say no because of my wife. I didn't tell him that my parents-in-law were living in Tel Aviv, so it took me 30 seconds to convince my wife. I accept the mission in November. I did my Aliyah, so I resigned from the French government in December 2012. I found the place to build I-24 News in January. There was a tender. We won the tender in February. We started to build the 15th of March 2013, and 100 days after, we launched 3 channels, 1 French, 1 English, and 1 Arabic in Tel Aviv Jaffa as a startup international news channel.
But you've, I think you've told me that you still have trouble getting broadcast clearance in Israel for I-24. Is that right? Explain that situation.
This is, when I had to build, because when I arrived in Israel, I arrived with the white paper. And you are always thinking about the target. And the fact to be a former diplomat is helping me, because I think I know why the people hate Israel. Most of the people are not anti-Semite or anti-Zionist. Of course there is more and more. Most of the people I met in my life, They don't know anything about Israel. You know, when, and I had this opportunity in my older job, when you are meeting Merkel, when you are meeting Blair, even Bush or Putin, there is not in the agenda Israel. They are never talking about Israel. They are always talking about peace process. They are not seeing Israel as a country. They are seeing Israel as a problem, part of the peace process.
So your chief audience is outside Israel. It's in Europe. If it's in the United States. It's in Asia. Would that be fair?
Yes. This is the reason I decided to take the risk, not to target the Jewish people. Because to do a channel to convince the people already convinced, it's nice to be a hero for the Jews, but it's not a big challenge. But to do a channel for the people who are hating us, this I like.
All right. So you've talked about the goal of I-24 to bring the story of Israel to viewers. What is it? And you've also said that you view your competition as being Al Jazeera, Al Jazeera English, Al Jazeera French, Arabic, and also CNN. Is CNN the model or your competition?
CNN is a commercial model, but you are right to say that for me the most important is to be credible. And to be credible, it's to be a business model as a startup, but also credible in terms of content. When I arrived in Israel, the first interview I gave to the Yediot Aharonot, they put the title, "This is the crazy guy who wants to do the craziest project in Israel. He wants to build an Israeli Al Jazeera." This I don't like at all. I'm fighting with that. We don't have the same values than Al Jazeera. I want to be the alternative of Al Jazeera. And the day of the launch of I-24 News, my first interview was for Al Jazeera. They came from Doha, in the newsroom of I-24 News that I will show you in a few seconds, because it looks it's ready now. The first question of the journalist of Al Jazeera was to say, "Okay, Mr. Melul, we are the two voices of the Middle East." I was very happy to see that already my competitor saw me as an alternative voice. He told me, "What's the difference between you and me?" And I told him, "We are broadcasting from Tel Aviv. You are broadcasting from Doha. We are the only one international news channel broadcasting from the heart, from the Middle East, which is a democracy." So maybe, if you're okay, just because I cannot invite you all to visit I-24 News right now, I try to bring with me I-24 News. The movie, please.
Right. So we have a video of I-24 now.
Wish I was mad, crazy as a dog. Wish I could last as long as the gods. Wish I could be perfectly free. Wish I was a creep. Wish I made you bleed and live some beautiful days in a magical place, beautiful arms, perfect and straight, beautiful days, in a magical place, a new dream is born, new freaks have come, beautiful days.
Bonsoir, bienvenue, c'est le Grand Direct.
We are here with a special breaking news edition.
شكرا لكم على طيب المتابعة. بعد قليل الموجز. إلى اللقاء.
نحن مستمرون في التغطية الخاصة لتقصي قضية الشبان الإسرائيليين المفقودين.
Here at the Vatican, in a joint prayer for peace.
L'oration.
On peut dire que la prière est aussi un acte politique, avec un P majuscule.
Welcome to our Sunday talk show, The World This Week.
Bienvenue dans Reportage, le magazine de la rédaction de I24 News.
The interview that we bring you in this episode is an exclusive moment.
On regarde.
President Shimon Peres, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. The problem with peace is, first of all, to convince your own people. The minute that the peace process is becoming a competition of making speeches, it's the end of the peace process.